James, how you been, buddy?
Good, brother. What's cooking?
We had a rather wonderful steak this evening.
Steak. That's exactly what's cooking.
I think you pussied out and had a salad.
Well,
What's going on there, James?
I didn't expect you'd out me quite so severely like that. Well, no, I just eaten. That's the truth of it. And you know, I'm watching my calories.
Yeah.
I'm a calorie counter these days, son. But the salad was probably incredibly calorific because it was probably the best salad I've ever had.
It was.
Yeah.
As someone who actively avoids salad,
Yeah.
I actually finished all my salad.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have chips because I'm also watching my calories at the moment, and I'm trying to make weight for a jiu-jitsu competition coming up. So I can't have anything too salty. But I did have the salad. We did have some potatoes.
I did, yeah.
I don't know, I think potatoes in chip form are unhealthy, but potatoes in whole potato form.
On Rogan the other day, he was saying when the potato has cooled,
Yeah.
the health benefits are markedly increased.
Really? So
slightly
potato salad?
cooled potato,
Okay.
yeah, as opposed to steaming hot potato.
Interesting. What did they say why that would be?
I'm sure they did, but it was above my pay grade, Saad. You remember my marks for year 10
yeah.
chemistry? They were in the low teens.
Yeah, that's not something that we cheated on. Or you didn't attempt to cheat on it, nor did I on that one.
Wrote that one off earlier, I think.
Yeah, checked out this new steak place. What was it called?
I can't remember now.
I don't know either.
But it's a rip-off of another famous steak place in Canberra.
Yeah,
Meat and Wine
yeah.
Co.
Look,
There was one big difference, though.
yes, there was.
It was essentially a clone,
yeah,
except for the fact that instead of a wholly Indian waitstaff, we had a wholly Southeast Asian waitstaff, Filipino waitstaff.
yeah. No, I think
essentially.
I was Filipino, largely Filipino. I did see the occasional Indian.
There might have been a couple of Koreans in there.
Yeah, there were a few
Yeah.
Koreans there, and there was definitely the majority were Filipino. Whereas if you go to Meat
It was
Wine
from the
Company-
Orient, not the subcontinent. let's
exactly,
put it that way.
yeah, exactly.
And what does that say? Are we moving up in the world or down in the world when you go from Indian waitstaff to Oriental waitstaff?
Look,
Otherwise, they seem identical. Price-wise, everything else is identical. What are we to make of this?
look,
Stepping up or down in the world, Saad?
Look, at risk of being called racist, I think we are stepping up in the world, only because it's a steak restaurant.
But if you worship a cow and you work in a steak restaurant,
Exactly.
you have to really want it. So maybe you are screening out the happy-go-lucky, devil-may-care, slacker employees,
Yeah.
and only those who are prepared to go against their deeply held religious beliefs for a Thursday evening shift.
Do you think, James, that most Indians do hold deeply held religious beliefs? Did you know the largest exporter of beef in the world is India?
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that.
It is.
Could it be that the 100 million Muslims in India are doing the heavy lifting on that one?
Correct.
Could well
However,
be.
I looked into this a while ago, and it turns out that a lot of the beef export companies are owned by Hindus, but they have very Muslim-sounding names. So
Excellent.
they give the company a name like Mohammed bin Salman Beef Exports, stuff like that. But they're actually the owners are actually
Modi
Hindu.
becomes Mo.
Yeah,
Beef.
pretty much. Yeah, I looked into that, and it was I found that quite interesting because for people who claim that the cow is their mother, they don't seem to really revere it that much.
Well, we haven't taken a survey of the waiters there. Who knows what they're thinking?
No.
But I think I'm with you. I feel like we moved up in the world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's obvious that this place, it was called something and something. It's saying Meat and Wine.
It's a clone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a clone.
It's a
In
clone.
fact, actually, I looked into it. It's actually owned by the same restaurant group. The menu was identical. They had a few different changes. The pricing was pretty much the same. I can see what the strategy is here because, look, Meat and Wine Company is always booked out. As you and I have tried to go a few times and we've been unable to.
We have gone a few times.
We've
so
gone a
yeah,
few
yeah,
times,
yeah.
but there have been other times where we've gone and been denied a table.
Mhm.
And they probably saw, okay, we're leaving money on the table, but they probably didn't want to open the same identical restaurant or expand it. So you open another one that's very similar.
Well, this way you get the hype.
Exactly.
You get the hype. You get
Yeah.
the write-up in the Canberra
Yeah.
Times.
True. The decor was nice. The food was great. The potatoes were great.
How do you think they pulled off a complete shift in terms of the ethnic composition of
That
their
is-
wait staff?
Yeah,
Was that deliberate? And how do you do it?
It
Is
has
it
to be,
simply
hey.
a matter of advertising in the local Filipino paper instead of the local Indian paper? Is that all they've done?
Yeah, look,
And if so, why? I think it's upmarket. I think
it's upmarket. I think people are
better quality of English spoken.
Yes, 100%. I mean,
You're seeing that,
I think we discussed this early on in one of our episodes, how Filipino scam callers
Yes.
are of a higher standard than Indian scam callers.
I love Filipino.
I love Filipinos too.
I love Filipinas.
Yeah.
But I'm partial to Filipinos as well.
Yeah. The hiring decision must have been deliberate because given the number of Indian immigrants and students and Uber drivers and whatnot in Canberra, it seems highly unlikely that you could avoid hiring them. And there really were. I think I saw one Indian waitress, and to be honest, she looked like she was.
She
local.
could have been a borderline call.
Yeah, exactly.
She could have been a mixed race
who knows?
scenario. Yeah,
exactly. You know, whereas there are definitely a few Koreans there.
Definitely a couple of East Asians.
Yes,
intermixed with your Southeast Asians.
I did find
it was mainly an East Southeast Asian mix. I think. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway. Saad, can I just be honest?
Yeah.
This racial profiling, this talk of immigration. You were at the press club today watching Pauline, I presume, down the front cheering.
Yeah. Look,
Pauline Hanson.
I really wanted
made
to
a
be
big
there.
Address today.
I did want to be there because I think Get Up Australia, or Rise Up Australia, did a bit of.
I mean, who cares what they call
whatever they're called?
Yeah.
But they did perform some sort of prank.
They
there,
unveiled a banner.
Yeah, James, tell us about that. What did they actually do?
They unveiled a banner behind Pauline. I don't know what it said. It might have said "I'm a big stupid head," or something equally witty.
Yep.
It was pulled off by Britney Spears' husband, the man who oversaw so successful.
Britney Spears?
Sorry, Britney Higgins' husband.
Britney Higgins, yes. Different Britney. Brittany, I think.
A couple of wines with the salad, ladies and gentlemen. No, Britney Higgins' husband, David Shiraz, who was the meddling weirdo who was behind that horrible attempt to blow up Britney in a suicidal attempt to bring down the entire Liberal Party. That ended with both of them, or certainly him, being declared bankrupt. He struck again as another. He was apparently the author of this prank, sitting in the back of the room watching the banner come down. But it wasn't his best work, I don't think. But it certainly was of the meddling low life variety that he's made his name for. So shout out to David Shiraz and to Get Up. But Saad, I don't think you're going to be as sympathetic to Pauline on this one as me.
No, look.
Can I be honest? I've detected a little bit of. We've always basically been on the same page.
Yeah.
I was thinking, we've both kept the faith in our life to varying degrees, up and down. That's how faith goes.
That's life.
But even in the darkest times of tension between Christians and Muslims, 9/11, we lived through that.
Yep.
I was always a strong ally of the cause of Christian-Muslim unity. I believe you'll confirm this.
100%.
But for the first
100%.
time, there have been cracks in the facade of our long-standing, deep-rooted cross-religious friendship over the issue of one day. We've not talked about it.
No, we haven't.
Today is the day, my brother.
I'll be honest.
Let's go toe-to-toe on this one.
I don't find it all that interesting. In general, I don't find politics all that interesting.
Yeah, but we don't have anything else to talk about today.
No, that's true.
So we're going to open up this wound.
Look,
we're going to open this wound. Pauline, good or bad, am I racist because I'm going to vote for Pauline? That's the big issue here, isn't it?
Look, fundamentally, I feel that she has some good intentions, perhaps. She spent a bit of time in prison, which is great. I think she made.
I always respect that.
Yeah, but she did ally herself.
Shout out to all the boys and girls in the yard.
Yeah, but she did ally herself with some questionable characters whilst in prison.
She aligned herself with some questionable characters before prison when she was a member of the Liberal Party. I mean, come on.
That's true. True. But my main problem is with her recently when she basically came out and said there are no good Muslims. She has this huge vendetta against Muslims. A few years ago, she was offered a halal snack pack. A very, very popular dish, and she said, "Nah, won't do it. Don't do halal. Can't do it." I don't think she understands what halal means. I don't think she understands a lot about Islam in general.
I would agree with that. I would say that's undoubtedly true.
Yes.
I would say her level of education about Islam is not very high.
No.
Or about many things.
Yeah.
And that is why I will be voting Pauline. Okay. Let me
explain. Yeah.
I think if you were to press, because a lot of these One Nation people, right, they're so staunchly, the leadership, I mean, not the membership, which I respect, but the leadership is so staunchly pro-Israel. They have this very evangelical Protestant view of Israel, right? And it's very disappointing to me.
Pauline as well. She rocked up in Parliament wearing a freaking Israeli flag.
It's a source of, the way in which certain factions of Christendom have aligned themselves to the blue and white state never ceases to disappoint me. But I suspect if you were to dig a little deeper into her views, she probably fears a lot of things that she's not familiar with. And if you asked her about Catholics, she might say, well, how would you know? This is the old trope about Catholics, of course. How would you ever vote in a Catholic? Because if the Pope told them to drop a bomb on Australia, they just do it. Because that's what I suspect that there'd be something similar come up about that. You know what I mean? Because and that doesn't worry me much at all, Saad, because when you go into these interviews, people are asking you all sorts of things, especially when it's Pauline. They're always digging for the racist angle. And I think what's great about her is she just says whatever the fuck is on her mind at that point in time. Yeah. And she makes no bones about the fact that that's all she's doing. Yeah. Whereas everyone else in politics is projecting competence. And Pauline is just basically letting the tape deck reel and you're getting everything in her head. Yeah. And it's not necessarily pretty, Saad, but you're getting a pretty unfiltered view of what's in that head as opposed to all other politicians, right? And
So you respect the fact that she's real and she's honest and
she's real as fuck, brother.
Yeah, I can get down with that.
And she's real as fuck, especially about one issue and one issue only. Yep. She's been singing the same tune, the tune that you have been singing now recently, and I have been singing because it's the truth. Yeah. They have opened the floodgates and let in a huge number of low-quality migrants to the damage of people like you and people like me. And would you not agree with that?
Somewhat, but I remember...
They've dropped the quality filter.
I remember when I first moved to Australia, and that's what, in the late 90s, early 2000s, Pauline was big back then as well. Mm-hmm. And her problem was with Chinese and Asian immigrants in general. And now she's so...
I think Pauline has is pretty open about the fact that she has a problem with people who are, different.
Yeah.
That's more, she's not hiding that.
Yeah.
And that is not to be feared, I don't think, because, look, I mean... How important is it to Pauline Hanson that people in One Nation fear Islam? You'd have to say, you see that guy in One Nation who got elected to a state parliament the other day?
And he's gay and has a Muslim boyfriend.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, now they only have so many winnable seats. They've only just started roaring up in the polls, right? So back then, the lead candidate who's likely to get a seat in parliament, you'd think if they were really about the anti-Muslim cause, they might go, mate, just letting you know, we hate... towel heads, rag heads, mozzies of all kinds. Are you down with that? And he would have said it, well, actually, I'm married to one in a gay, that would have come up. I don't think it's...
How Muslim can you really be if you're gay and married?
Well, it depends. Depends on the nation you're from. Yeah. I mean, there's certain parts of the Muslim world where, that sort of thing flies or certain cities.
I suppose,
within the Islamic world, you might be able to get away with that in Jakarta, say, which is probably where this fellow is from.
Yep.
Jakarta's a pretty wild place, let me tell you, but not at this time. But what I'm saying is, so these thoughts are kicking around in their head. They're kicking around in the subconscious of a lot of us. Racist thoughts, fear of the unknown, fear of the different. But how prioritized are they in her head? I wouldn't say very.
Yeah.
Because who she's coming after, the main thrust of her agenda is to end the sudden influx of low-quality temporary migrants. We've talked about that. And to stop foreign money coming in and taking houses away from Australians.
I'm done with that. I agree with that. Yep.
And basically what I think is her real virtue is the way that the immigration system has been allowed to run out of control has been that we've had these dodgy colleges that bring in these temporary migrants who are just looking for an Uber Eats gig. We've had these colleges donate to both big political parties. Big business loves it. Everyone's getting a slice. And the Australian average bloke and woman is getting screwed. One thing you know about Pauline for sure is she is not getting that slice because she has raged against this crooked scheme from day one and she will continue to do that. So she is not, on this issue, bought and sold. And so she has immense credibility, whereas none of the others do because they are all bought and sold on this issue.
Okay. What about
that's my case for Pauline.
Gina Reinhart purchasing a plane for her?
Well, look, I mean, I don't really fear Gina myself. I mean, she employs a huge amount of Australians. And Pauline's plan, which is obviously a sop to Gina for overhauling the gas industry, was to have the government take over a huge amount of exploitation of gas resources. I kind of like that idea. In the way that it happens in Norway, the government should be capturing that value.
Yep,
so Gina's probably in the background, but the results to me, they look fine.
Okay.
And, good luck to her. They're all on the take, brother. Yeah. It's a question of degrees.
Yeah.
And in her case, maybe you can only say on this one issue, she definitively is not. but she definitively is not on that one issue. You can't say that about Albanese, Angus Taylor, or anyone else in politics, can you? Even on one issue.
One thing that I saw online the other day, which angered me on the One Nation Facebook page, they shared a post, and I just thought this was like deliberately trying to cause divisiveness and stir up controversy when there really isn't any, was that they said something along the lines of NAB Bank have introduced Sharia or Islamic banking. This is not fair. All people should be treated equally. Now, that was a really retarded take, basically, because firstly, an Islamic banking product is available to anyone. You don't have to be Muslim. It's not like one of the loans in America, which can be accessed interest-free by certain groups of people.
I welcome it. Ban on usury. It's the heart of the problem in modern society, isn't it?
I agree. I agree.
I'm down with it.
Just the comments on that, you could see
down with
that people are commenting things like, what, this is so unfair. How can Muslims access interest-free loans, this and that? And again, just the lack of education or just thought on this was mind-boggling. I was like, NAB is one of the big four banks. Do you think they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts? No, they're not. They're adding Islamic banking products to their portfolio of offerings because it expands the number of customers they can do it. Now, let's be clear. So Islamic, under strict Islamic interpretation, interest, usury is banned. It's not allowed. So what happens in these loans, it's not called interest. It effectively is interest, but it's not called that. And there's full transparency. So, for example, when you get a mortgage right now, you don't know 5 years from now what your repayments are going to be. But in this case, they get completely locked in. And the actual nature of the relationship is very different. I don't want to go too much into it because I'm not an expert. But the nature of the relationship between the lender and the borrower is very different. That relationship is more of a partnership as opposed to I'm borrowing money from you. So you both have a vested interest.
Let me offer a view on this. Yeah. Let me offer a view on this. Is she pushing that button that makes people who have fear or hatred of Islam get exercised?
Yes.
Absolutely yes.
And I don't like that. I don't like that.
Is that a problem? I would never do it. I have too much respect for Islam. I would never do that. But how big of a problem is it? Let me put it to you this way. How do you win an election, Saad, in a democracy that's chaotic and an election that's tight? The answer is you throw spaghetti at the wall and you see what sticks, right?
Yeah,
and a little dollop of racism has very often proven to be what gets mainstream campaigns over the line. Yeah. For example, when George W. Bush was running against John McCain for president in 2000 for the Republican nomination, his campaign put it about that McCain had fathered a black child out of wedlock, even though he hadn't, right? Did that make the difference? Almost certainly it helped, but they pulled probably 15 other levers as well.
Yeah.
And you get cranks of all kinds. You're trying to build a 50% coalition and you're pulling all these levers. The major parties do the same thing, but they're doing it in secret, in an unhanded way.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Saad. I don't like it.
No.
I think it's disrespectful to the faith and to what is a very honorable principle at the heart of Islamic finance. Exactly. I would never do it myself. But when you criticize it, do it, but know that the same thing is happening with the Liberal Party, or has been happening, but in underhanded ways. The same thing with the Labor Party, but in underhanded ways. One Nation is doing it out in the open. I don't think it sits at the core of their philosophy, though.
Yeah, true. I mean,
her chief advisor is a gay guy. Yeah. And they always say it's a fundamentalist Christian operation.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? People project onto it and they sing all kinds of tunes, but the question is, what's the main tune?
True. I mean, to be honest, I found just the comments to be hilarious. For example, someone commented saying that Muslims don't pay tax or aren't allowed to pay tax, and I just replied saying, "Really? I didn't. I wish I was part of that because I certainly pay my fair or more than my fair share of tax." And people genuinely thought that Muslims get access to interest-free loans from banks, which is just absolutely retarded.
That's out there, Saad. I mean, that's true. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. But people think all manner of things.
Yeah,
you know, the thoughts that fly through the heads of the average punter who doesn't really care and isn't really that informed, that they let fly on Facebook after a couple of tinnies.
Yeah.
There's all manner of thoughts on all manner of issues.
That's true.
And winning in politics is ugly. I've seen it up close, and none of them are any different.
No.
Can I just tell you that?
Okay.
Yeah. That's my case, my realpolitik case for voting for Pauline. I don't think I've convinced you, but I think I've at least added a bit of complication.
A few other bits and pieces that, read about her. She has an attendance rate of like 50 or 51%. So basically half the time.
That's good. The whole thing is a corrupt dog and pony show.
Yeah, okay.
The lower the attendance record, the better.
Yeah.
The lower her level of education, the better. Because education at a high level correlates with being a lying fuckwit.
Okay.
We've seen that time. That's precisely why I like her.
Yeah.
The fact that she's just letting the tape deck roll off, I like that.
Yeah.
I find that attractive. Not the comments, be clear.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that that's her approach.
Yeah.
It makes me...
How old is she now? Do you know?
She'd be, 70 plus?
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't really have a serious shot at becoming Prime Minister, do you think, does she?
Well, she's the preferred Prime Minister of the Australian people. She beats Albanese, beats Angus Taylor.
Wow.
But then again, I think you'd have a chance at doing both of them in at this point in time, wouldn't you?
True.
A cactus
exactly.
would probably have a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
But, I don't think you could rule it out, Saad.
No. All right, I might have to do some more research. Look, I respect the fact anyone who's not afraid to speak their mind, I do respect that because unfiltered.
She gets mad credibility for that, doesn't she?
100%.
In a pit of venomous snakes who would run over their mothers for a curry pie. On at least one thing, she has been singing the same song, especially when it wasn't popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I just not a fan of her. She seems to be just use Muslims a lot. Like Mehdi Hassan was on the Patrick Bet David podcast recently, and
Absolute slaughterhouse, wasn't it?
Absolute slaughterhouse. Yeah, PBD was pushing the whole Muslims want Sharia law, and Mehdi Hassan was like I think less than 2% or 1% of the population in America is Muslim. He's like, he has never given. He was like, give me an example of someone calling Sharia law in America, and it doesn't exist. Same in Australia. It was Pauline Hanson who said that as well. Muslims want Sharia law. What it doesn't make sense. So you're gonna change the entire Australian constitution to that of a Muslim country? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
What about if I was to put it this way? A certain degree of racism, fear of other cultures is going to be present in every society, right?
100%.
Would we rather have it? Is it better treated by just being excluded from comment sections and the media? Or is it better if we air these views and people can go, well, hang on, actually the way Islamic finance works is kind of this way, and you'd probably like it because it's the exact opposite of Jewish finance. And probably a lot of these guys have, you might be able to change minds this way, right? You might argue that it's actually a form of progress, as opposed to having it simmering away under the surface.
True.
Where it's so effectively manipulated by these political. That's a good point,
because I did respond to a lot of people in the comments there, and I said that you're all welcome to apply for a Sharia compliant loan. It's usury is a major sin in Islam and in traditional Christianity.
I think if you polled those people and you told them exactly what it was, how do you feel about this idea?
Yeah.
I think you would find extremely strong support amongst those people for that idea. So the closer you get to bringing those ideas out in the open, you might argue is progress. Or maybe I'm just getting money under the table from One Nation.
Yeah, I mean, look, you had a salad today, not a steak, so I'd suggest perhaps it's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money.
No.
You were paying the bill, brother. That's why. I didn't want to overmax you out.
No, it's fine. My wallet is always open for you, James. You mentioned these fake, these scam colleges, James. Do you just want to give us a quick overview of what they are? Because I've got my own story to share.
Well, I think we talked about it last week, didn't we? But for as long as I can remember, 20, 30 years, there's been a perennial scandal where they go, well, this college was offering courses in how to give bowl cuts with scissors.
Right, yes.
But it turns out that the instructor was never there, and no one ever came. And they are all fronts for various Indian or Chinese companies. They donate huge amounts to the Labour Party. A lot of them are tied up with the Chinese Communist Party. And it's all a big scam. You're getting a certificate in how to wipe up
basket
spills. Things like this.
So I've had an ongoing dispute with one of those colleges involving parking. So
one of the colleges offering a qualification that might not be the most essential.
No, exactly. They're offering qualifications in
Are they near here?
They are. They're next door. They're
next door.
Yeah, next door.
Next
and
door.
They offer qualifications in various construction. Now, I'm
probably lollipop turning.
Look,
would be one
perhaps.
of them. Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to comment on their validity on how valid they are. I see a lot of
I'm
people
going to
there.
take a risk here. I've not got any knowledge of them, but I'm going to say it's a complete sham.
Yeah,
Whatever
look,
it is, I have not encountered one of these colleges that is not a complete sham.
I did speak to some of the instructors, and they seemed like legitimate tradespeople.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was Indian. He actually owns his own painting company, and I'm actually getting him out to my house for some quotes. He was a good bloke. Actually, it was after almost getting into a fist fight with him.
So what? Hang on. Let's back up here.
Yeah.
So they're next door.
Okay, so
They're offering qualifications that may or not, but that's perhaps beside the point.
That's beside the
The
point.
issue
I don't
is
wanna comment on
they're
that.
parking in your space.
yeah, so basically their students keep parking.
Mostly an Indian crew.
They're all Indian.
All Indian.
All
Okay,
Indian.
all Indian. Let's be
Occasional,
clear. All
occasional,
Indian.
occasional Chinese person.
It's like a
But, yeah.
steak restaurant
They're
of a certain name.
all Indian.
Okay.
They keep parking in my parking spots during business
Who's
hours.
they? The students? The teachers?
The students.
The students.
Now,
Okay.
I've told the college, I told the instructors there
lot of
multiple
students,
times.
is it?
A lot of students.
A lot of
yeah,
students.
Yeah.
And they keep parking in
They
your
keep
space.
parking, yeah.
Wow.
I've told them multiple times over the past 12 months or so.
That's
Listen,
crazy
guys,
brave.
During business hours,
crazy brave.
please don't park in my parking spots. I need those parking spots to put our cars and for customers to come in.
I need that for productive economic use.
Exactly.
You fucking parasites.
Exactly. Basically like that. And, it got to the point where I even went and addressed the entire class. I said, guys, don't park
How
here.
did you get into that scenario? You can't just waltz in and just.
I literally did. I just waltzed
did?
in. I just waltzed in.
And what
as
do
a
they
thing.
think?
I said,
What are they thinking? This is the substitute teacher for today. As soon as you walk in, and then suddenly you give them a dressing down.
Yeah, a bit like what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? Catch Me If You Can.
Yes.
Yeah. I should do that one day.
You simply walk with the air of someone who
Yes.
has the right to be
I'm
there.
the teacher now.
and they let you into stage.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
okay. I'm liking where this is going, Saad.
Yes.
So you're walking on stage.
So I've done that a few
Yeah.
times. That's happened a few times.
and what do you tell them? And what's the lecture you give them?
I said to them, guys-
Listen up, you fucks.
Yeah, look, I said, guys, I've asked you multiple times not to park in my spot anymore. To not park in my parking spots after business hours or on weekends. It's okay. I don't mind. Just don't park in front of my garage on weekends, but otherwise it's okay. But during Monday to Friday, during business hours, don't park in our spots. How about you stop being lazy fucks, parked on the street and walk 20 meters? You don't need to be parked right here. You'll save all of 2 minutes. And they're like, oh, this and that. And I told the instructor, I emailed
How was
the college.
level of English comprehension amongst the class? What'd you say?
Actually, I nearly got into a fight. I got into an argument with a bunch of them, and they started talking about me in Hindi. So I responded in Urdu, and then they got shocked.
So
okay. Yeah.
What was the level of English comprehension though? Would you say?
Look, they presumably have passed the IELTS exam to
Yes.
some degree, so they'd have some level of comprehension.
What, pretty low competency or
Pretty low.
That may
but
be the
they
source
know-
of the
they
parking
all-
issue. Do you
they
think?
know.
Or what?
They
No, they
know.
know what they're doing.
No, they know that they're not supposed to park there.
Okay.
It's kind of like the problem is, mate, this isn't fucking India. You can't just park wherever you want. Remember that time I told you about Aga Juice? Again, some Indian guy had just fucking parked his car right in the middle of the street to get his juice. Like, mate, this isn't India. You can't do that. This happened multiple times. And then to one guy, I even said, mate, if I see your car parked in front of my spot again, I will get my forklift and I'll move it.
Do you have a forklift?
No, I don't have a forklift.
But
I
he didn't know that.
He didn't know that.
He didn't know that.
You know what?
What was his reaction? Tell us.
He was very apologetic.
He understood very loud and clear.
He understood. Yeah.
You spoke the international language of
Yes,
threats.
exactly.
And, okay.
Well, not
So
only
what
that-
happened after you made the threats?
this happened-
Did the problem go away?
For some time, the problem went away. But it happened occasionally, and I would just go in, and if I saw someone parking, I would go out and tell them, guys, you can't park here, and they'd move. It seems
Pretty
there's
civil.
Yeah, pretty civil.
Pretty civil.
I suspect the problem is actually the college. They aren't telling their students not to park here. But then again, I had to go on the instructors, and I said to him, he got quite offended. I said, what kind of course are you speaking? What kind of course are you teaching here? If you're teaching your students about, how to paint, how to do carpentry, how to do construction, sure you should be teaching them about Australian values, ethics, and etiquette as well. And he got real offended. Oh, don't tell me how
And
to
the
do my
rule of
jobs.
law. Yeah.
Don't tell me how to do my job. This and that. I said,
Oh,
I'm not.
really? How
I'm not
rich.
telling you how to do your job, but I'm telling you, you perhaps need to be, teaching them, that this is in India. You can't just park your car wherever you want. Okay. Anyway. One day, it was around 8 o'clock in the morning, very early. I come and I see 2 cars parked in my spot. Now, what annoyed me even more was that these 2 cars were taking up the spaces of 3.
What model cars are we talking
They were
about?
both, you're not going to believe me, they were both Toyota Camrys. Like, you cannot get more stereotypical
Somehow,
than that.
Saad, I knew that was going to be the answer before I asked that question. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, so 2 Toyota Camrys parked there.
So
It was 8 o'clock in the morning.
So 3
Yeah.
spots
3
taken
spots,
up by 2 cars.
Yeah,
2
it was
Camrys.
it was a
yeah.
Friday. It was a
Okay.
Friday.
Friday, And you're feeling what at this point? Saad?
I'm quite angry.
The cortisol's going.
Yeah, I'm angry, and I actually need to. I'm about to head off to Sydney actually to sell a DJ mixer of mine. That's a true story.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you know what? These guys can get fucked. So what did I do? I printed a note, put it on their car with a large amount of tape, saying.
Was it a friendly note, Saad?
No, it wasn't friendly. It said something.
A cordial missive.
What? Sorry.
A cordial missive.
A cordial missive.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar. I don't know what cordial means, but missive as in dismissive.
Letter is a word for letter.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never heard that. No, but no, it was not cordial.
It was not cordial in
It was not
tone.
cordial.
Okay.
It essentially, from memory, it said, despite repeated warnings, you are parked in my spot, and you are causing economic loss to the business. In order to release your car, the fee will be $220. Now, apparently, you're not.
How did you
legally
come
allowed
up
to
with
do
that
this.
fee?
I just did.
You
$220.
took on the powers of a parking inspector.
Yeah, I said $200. And then at that point, what I decided to do after that was I went and got my jacked up.
You're lucky this is
car.
not a forklift, guys.
No, it's not a forklift. I jacked up their car.
So you jacked up the car.
Yeah, grabbed my very nice my Milwaukee rattle gun, and I undid their wheels and I took their wheels and put them inside the shop.
You confiscated.
Yeah. So now the car.
Some properties.
Yeah.
You'll get a clamp on your wheel.
Yes. I just took
This
the wheel.
is the only property.
Yes.
Only case I've heard of where you'll lose your wheel for parking on the property. Can I just say you're an innovator?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not easy to drive a car with 3 wheels.
How did you feel when you deprived them of the wheel? Did you feel better?
I'll be honest. So I did all that. And then around 9 o'clock, my staff walk in and they see, and everyone just pissed themselves
Everyone's
laughing.
figured out without you explaining what's
Yeah,
going
they
on.
knew, and they just started laughing, and they were just asking me, "All right, boss, what's the game plan from here?" I said, "I'm going to Sydney, but if these people,
Boys, hold the fort.
yeah, I said I'm going to Sydney. You guys deal with it. But if they ask their wheels back, you say they can get them back at 5 o'clock. They can either pay $220 now, or they can get it back at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I would have been.
So
back.
you'd waive the fee just
Yeah.
for yeah. Okay.
just
very
let me know
generous.
value,
Very
yeah.
generous.
So then I start heading to Sydney. Now I wasn't really. I went to Sutton Bakery first, so I was driving to Sutton Bakery to grab a
Shout out to all the folks at Sutton Bakery.
Shout out to all the folks,
Sponsor of this
pod. The crew, Tash and Bianca. If you're watching this,
Tash.
love your work. Going there to grab a snack, and then I get a phone call from the owner of the college. And this is after I'd emailed them as well. I'd emailed him and told him this has happened and this is
So you put in writing.
Yes.
By the way, I've seized the wheels of the cars.
Yes, I said that. Now he was
A man who is not afraid of any consequence. That's the image you are projecting.
Now the owner of the college, I must say, he was an Indian. Now I would say that he was a high class Indian because
A Brahmin, perhaps.
Perhaps.
One could only conjecture.
He moved to Australia 30 years ago, so he says. And he was really kind. His English is very good. He had that kind of upper posh.
Well, we've got no problem with immigrants of this sort, do we?
No,
Saad, in
we
this
don't.
Podcast?
We
no,
don't.
we absolutely
No,
do
we
not.
don't. We don't.
High quality people who
Exactly.
speak the language, integrated.
He's
We
done
have
very well for
absolutely
himself.
zero.
Yeah.
No better example than you and your family.
Yes,
Extremely
so thank you,
people
thank
who,
you. And all my friends
who've
as well.
raised the average
Yeah.
of.
So, and he was very understanding, very patient. He said, Saad, look, I understand. It's very frustrating. I'm going to put an email out to everyone, this and that. I said, can you CC me on the email, please?
That'll fix it. Do
he
you think
goes-
they're checking their college emails regularly?
No, exactly. And I said,
While they're driving
I
Ubers?
can't remember his name, but I think I saved his number. And he said, look, Saad, I've been in Australia for 30 years, Just one word of advice. You can't legally take the people's wheels and stuff like
Now,
that.
he's got a
They
point
can
there.
sue you. And I said,
he may not be a law professor, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he's got a point there.
yeah, he does.
I'll back you to the hilt on this, Saad, but he had a point.
I agree. And my response to that was, you might be right, but they're welcome to call the police. What are the
Do you
odds?
really want to follow this through, motherfucker?
Yeah, but also, what are the odds that the police will come out to
It's a very
industrial
bizarre crime.
area
It's a
to
very
say,
bizarre crime,
Hi,
isn't it?
my one wheel on my Camry has been stolen, and I know where it is. And if the police came, what would I do? I'll tell them what happened. I'll be like, "Here's the wheel. I'll put it back on. Not a big deal."
I
think
found
it'd be
these
worth it.
cars on the premises of my car detailing
Yeah.
shop, and I presume they wanted the new wheel removal service that we are offering.
Yes. Now I actually
I made a genuine mistake, officer.
Yes.
It would be very difficult to prove you wrong there.
and look, the odds are
They left the cars on your property.
Exactly.
And you are a car alteration service.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I thought they were paying us to get the wheels cleaned. We had this booking. And look, the odds are most of the police who work in this area, not most of them, a few of them, I do know them because they patrol the area regularly, so they know me, I know them. And they will probably just laugh at
I can't see that ever making the court system.
No,
but you were technically in the wrong. You were technically in the wrong.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay. However, in the email that I sent to the college, I did say that in future cars will be towed. The owner proceeded to tell me that you're not allowed to tow the cars. That is where he's wrong. I looked into this. You
can put clamps on. You can do whatever you want, can't you?
If the car is parked on your premises and is reasonably inhibiting access, which this were because we couldn't park our cars or parked in front of our garage, you are allowed to tow the vehicle provided it's been done by a licensed tow operator.
I know at the Canberra Baptist Church in Kingston, if you park on their property, they will apply a wheel clamp and charge you $100 for removing the wheel clamp.
Yes.
So, you know, if the Baptists can do it,
no,
I wonder whether you were in the wrong, Saad.
Yeah, I didn't have a wheel clamp.
But the same principle applies.
Same
You
principle.
had something much better than wheel clamp, and that was the will
to take the wheel
to
off.
deprive that man of the people of their mobility.
Exactly. Now, I got the phone call, and then shortly after, I got a phone call. Before the owner called me, the instructor called me, and he said to me, and I said,
English levels?
No, the English level and the instructor was great. He's the guy who owns the painting company.
Okay,
we get along well.
We're happy with this. Yeah.
He said to me that, these guys, they need their car back. They've got to go for their delivery jobs, this, that. I'm like, I'm sorry, mate, but unfortunately, because of them parking in my spots, my customers were unable to park, and I've lost business as a result. I had two $250 jobs booked in, so I'm charging.
Was that a lie, Saad? Was that truthful?
Well, it may, man. I've been. It's
You
irrelevant.
improvised a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest.
You put him on his toes. You gave him a bit of chin music. You wanted to see what he would say.
Yeah. And I said, look, if they don't want to pay the money, I understand, but you have to wait until 5 o'clock until I'm back. So, 5 o'clock, they can't, this and that. I'm like, mate, honestly, that's my problem, this and that. And then I got a call from the boss.
You took a hard line.
Yeah.
You took a hard
line. The
line.
boss was quite kind and reasonable. So I said, okay, I'll head back. I took my time at Sutton Bakery, finished my meal, like that. Then just,
had a leisurely coffee.
Yeah, drove back. I forgot to mention.
How are you feeling? Were you feeling good?
Yeah.
After your poor morning, poor start to the morning, were you feeling good on the way home?
Great. And
were you ready for a confrontation at this point?
I was ready. And what's
you were spoiling for a fight.
Our dear friend Mr. Brown was with me during the
fantastic.
whole process.
Exactly who you need backing you up.
When
shout out to Mr. Brown.
Yeah, shout out Mr. Brown. When a man in his 70s says what I'm doing is the right thing and he did not object, you're like, yeah, okay.
Mr. Brown is a noted moral authority.
Yeah, he is.
On many things, on all things, I would say.
So Mr. Brown was like, yep, just do it. And he was explaining as well, he was going deep into the psychology of these people and stuff like that.
He goes deep.
It goes above my head. But anyway, so I got back and I spoke to the instructor and I said, look, mate, this is unacceptable. It's been happening for way too often, and that's that. And he goes, look, I'm going to talk to him and it's not going to happen again and everything like that. Now, by this point, all the cars had left except the two that were there without a wheel.
They were unable to leave.
So I spoke to one of the guys there. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, depending how you look at it,
they had to stay late after class.
They did.
You gave them a detention.
They stayed about. You
gave them a detention.
I think they waited an hour and a half or two for me to arrive. Now, a pair of females owned one of the cars, and then two men owned the other cars. And when I saw
how did you establish this? They were waiting next to their cars, were they?
They were waiting inside.
How did they look when you saw them? Did they seem angry?
No,
perplexed,
they looked
sad.
Tail between their legs.
Is
the
see,
best way
ashamed.
I can describe it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they said to me, "Oh, we're so sorry. We were just running late to class, and we didn't know that we're not allowed to park here." I said, "Guys, how can you not know you're not allowed to park here? Can you see that this business is not yours? Can you see that all this here? Can you see the Porsche here? Can you see all this? That's not a valid excuse. Oh, look, we won't do it again. I'm like, I know you won't do it again." And then I said to one of the women, calling a woman is, she would have been early 20s, so I suppose she's a woman. Is this your car? And she says, yeah. I'm like, my apologies. Had I known that this car was owned by a woman, I wouldn't have taken your wheel off.
Chivalry is not dead, brother.
Then I said to one of the other Indian guys, is this your car? And he goes, yeah. Put her wheel back on and then put yours back on.
So you made him fix her mistake.
Because I don't
You made him step up to the plate and do the manly thing, the right thing.
I'm not going to get a woman and that, a petite Indian woman.
No.
I'm not going to get her to put her wheel on.
Can I say so far, Saad, you are setting an excellent example. You are the instructor, I'd say, today in the moral lesson that everyone needed to hear.
James. Thank you. So I said, And then I said, you put the wheel back on. And he's like, oh, I don't know how to. At that point, I was like, what in the actual... Okay, so you are in Australia.
Well, he hasn't done the wheel bolt turning course that is available next semester. Yeah,
exactly. James, you are here in Australia studying construction or doing something. Presumably, you'd understand what a spanner is, what a socket is. You'd understand that there are things called bolts that hold wheels in place.
Can I be honest? Just from having seen it on TV, I think I could have a bash.
Yeah, I think you could too. I think
even if I was completely unfamiliar.
I think my wife has changed a wheel before by herself.
I've definitely changed a wheel without ever having done it before. I've been taught how to do it.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. So I said, mate, are you fucking joking? He goes, oh yeah. I'm like, all right. So I put the I told him pick this up, line it up. I talked him through it, and then I talked him how to reuse the railgun.
So you gave him a free real education. The joke's on you, Saad. You came out there to deprive him of something, and you gave him something.
It is. But you know what? I performed a community service. That was my act of charity for the week.
Yeah.
He put the wheels on, and then I made him do it.
Still tail between the legs is the vibe here? Yeah, very much so.
Exactly.
And his mate is just watching on.
Yeah. I didn't offer him gloves or anything like that. I said, you get your hands dirty. You know? And then I got him to do the women's gloves. And I got him to do the women's car, the women's car as well.
And so she got let out from detention early.
Yeah, so she just waited and watched. Yeah. And I think she was entertained by the spectacle.
Absolutely, she would.
I don't mind. You know, look, women are they're the fairer sex for a reason.
Yeah,
and I think women
she knows
have their
a
place.
gentleman when she sees one.
Exactly. You know, at this point he had done both wheels, and then I showed him. Okay, here's the jack it up, take that out, and he put the car back on the ground. Great. I was skeptical at his ability to press a rattle gun and tighten the wheel nuts.
Were you just?
Yeah, I was like, look, I'm not entirely confident that he's done the wheels up tight enough, and I don't want to be responsible for the death of someone.
No,
ultimately,
absolutely not.
You know, I don't need that sort of.
It's not like you're running a shoddy construction college.
No,
you don't want to live with that kind of guilt.
Yes, exactly. So I went and got my trusty breaker bar, and I just went and tightened each one up. Every single one was hand tight. Oh, how do you fuck up doing up a bolt with a rattle gun? Sorry, they were all hand tight except the one that I had done up to show him how to do it. You know, I told him check them multiple times. He goes, yeah, done. I'm like, every single one. I said, mate, you know you could have just killed her, right? What is wrong with you? Oh yeah, I don't.
Yeah. How far away do you think he was from getting certified to ply his trade?
I think these diploma courses are on 12 weeks or so.
12 weeks.
I see this week 1.
So a man who's weeks away from potentially
working on your house,
scaffolding or something like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was unable to change a wheel on a car. Now, the moral of the story here...
Hang on. We haven't quite finished yet. Yeah. So he's failed to reapply the wheel.
Yeah.
But he still finds himself in the middle of a predicament, which is that his car is down 2 wheels. How do we resolve this, Saad? How does it conclude?
No. So the wheel, what happened was he had put the wheel back on the car, but he hadn't tightened the bolts.
No, but I mean his own car.
So no, he did his own car and the woman's car. So he did both cars.
So all 4 wheels.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry. What I did was I took one wheel from each car.
One from each. Okay.
So
that's enough.
That's enough. That renders the car.
Unless you really want to engage the police in a low-speed chase. Very few people are getting anywhere on 3 wheels.
Reliant Robin. Are you familiar with the Reliant Robin? That was a 3-wheel car. Very famous. Yeah. It was Mr. Bean's nemesis. You know all the Mr. Bean's episodes?
Of course.
Yes. Yeah. The Reliant Robin. Now, so he put the wheels back on, didn't tighten them up. I tightened them up for him and I showed him how to do it. And I said, don't ever park here again. I don't
think that was probably necessary. I think at that point, that was redundant. Yeah.
You know,
I don't think it's likely he was ever.
It's like signing your name.
How did the boys in the shop take this?
They were watching with.
They were amused.
Amusement.
Fair to say they were amused.
They were amused because what we did was
amused,
when I put the wheels inside the shop. I told the boys the wheels are here, but then I just covered them with a lot of cardboard. So I said, guys, if they come in asking for the wheels, just say you don't know where they are. I just hid them, you know? And they, because if they want, here's your wheels, you can take them, go and get your own tools and you can do it. I mean, you're not going to borrow my tools.
Look, part of being educated in Australia is the practical joke.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't learn to take one of those, have you really had an Australian education?
I took your wheels from your car to prove a point. I did take the $200. They took the $220 the sign off. Look, but one thing I learned from this experience. Oh yeah, the next day, no one parked in my spots. Not only that, everyone was parked in a very orderly manner. There was a marked difference in what was going on. And
you brought order, Saad.
Since then,
you basically cleaned up.
I did.
You cleaned up a
Yeah.
dirty sector of the Australian economy.
Yes.
Just by yourself one afternoon with a little lesson about might being right.
Yes. Yeah. What I found interesting though there was how that worked, which tells me that some people, Indians, immigrants, Indian immigrants,
some
they
Indian
can't be
immigrants.
reasoned with.
Some
They only
Indian
respond to
immigrants.
violence. Now, when I say violence, we don't necessarily mean like
Displays of force. shall we
displays
say.
of force,
Displays of power. Yeah.
exactly. You know, that is what they respond to.
I'd say I'm in the same boat, to be honest.
Yeah.
Typically, if you want to get me going,
Yeah.
a bit of violence will do it. Not
Yeah,
much else will, reliably.
They can't.
So no shade to our Indian friends.
No.
for that
I get what you're
observation.
saying.
Yeah.
And look, to be honest, I can kind of understand why that's the case. Because when you're in an absolute shithole like India, where it's dog eats dog, it's, you know, every man is out to get you. It's you aren't really going to respond to kindness. You're only going to respond to violence. So I can see why that's the case. But I think that's the problem with getting so many immigrants from countries like that. Not just India, but, you know, other countries like that. But getting so many of them here, it damages the culture.
It does. It absolutely does.
Me and a group of friends once had a very deep conversation, and we were attempting to define what is a fob. A fob, you know, fresh off the boat, you know what it means. And we were it was lighthearted, and we were trying to, you know, talk about when does one stop becoming a fob. And I came to the conclusion that the single most reliable indicator of a fob or someone who has assimilated to Australian society is your ability to wait in line without trying to push in. Because if you go to India, Pakistan, many parts of Asia,
Beijing,
the concept of waiting your turn doesn't exist. The concept of traffic lights doesn't exist. You know, it's just a free for all, absolute schmozzle.
Well, these are
shambles.
places that have been through a lot of famine.
Yes.
You know, people were eating bark in a lot of these countries a few decades ago because of the lack of food. So you can understand how this comes about, right?
And look, and let's be
but
honest.
the question is it our problem to deal with?
No, exactly.
And do we need to, because let's remember the stat that we brought up last episode. In 1993-94, there was about 30,000 immigrants world over that we were taking into Australia every year. And we were screening them rigorously. Your parents had to pass innumerable tests. And, you know, a great thing that they did, right? Because we were bringing in high quality, select people from all over the world. Over the last 10 years, instead of 30,000 from all over the world, we've brought in 50,000 just from India alone each of the last 10 years.
So 50,000,
Australia has gone nowhere near doubling its population in that time.
No.
We have opened the floodgates.
Yeah.
And for what need and to what end, I don't know. But a lot of these people who tell you any question of immigration is racist, they continue to deny even that it's increasing at an unsustainable rate. Those stats prove
I
what
agree.
you and I both know intuitively,
Yes.
that this is a lie.
Look, I don't have a problem with immigration per se. I have a problem with when you bring too many of one type of person into the country. It damages the environment.
How does Japan handle its immigration? If you want to come to Japan, you must be exceptional. You must be extremely high quality.
Yeah.
And isn't that a great thing? Doesn't that make
wonderful.
all the sense in the world?
Exactly. If we you know, Australia's an island nation. It's quite hard to. You can't just walk here.
Yeah.
You know, let's protect our borders, so to speak. England has gone down the shitter.
They have. Yeah.
Now, to play devil's advocate or to question one thing, these countries that we've mentioned, they're largely in the shits because of colonization and pre-colonial things.
Arguably, I might take the fight to you on that one side. I don't know.
There's both sides to that. You know, let's be honest. England did.
The big question is, can you imagine a world where colonialism didn't happen? Or do you think colonialism has actually been the engine of human history because cultures and nations are trying to dominate each other constantly?
Yeah, that's true.
And so can you actually say what would happen without it? Because there's no such world without it.
Look,
because human instinct is human instinct.
With India, for example, when England occupied India for a couple of hundred years.
Oh, it was a rough deal. It was a rough deal for the
They
Indians,
looted India for the equivalent of billions. Absolutely, you know. They say they did that to some African countries as well. They did it so bad, the French did the same, that they were unable to recover economically.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I mean, the Belgians, they kind of killed a lot of people. The British took the material wealth, perhaps the mineral wealth, but the cruelty of other colonial powers was not seen under British rule. No way.
Now, the Spanish, when it came to, you know, South America, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with what they did because, killing tribes that practice child sacrifice.
That's okay in my book.
That's okay in my book.
Yeah.
There was a story about, how one tribe, the neighboring tribe wanted to take his daughter to marry him. He said, "Oh, that's great." Next minute, he finds out his daughter's been killed and skinned alive or something like that because that's what they wanted to do. I'm like, not all cultures are equal.
That's
James.
the opening scene to an ancient Die Hard, isn't it? A Die Hard movie or something like that. You're asking for revenge at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and then the Spanish went there, saw this, and they brought Christianity there. And I think some cultures are arguably better than others. I think a culture
they definitely are. There's no question. We can measure them pretty simply as well. Yeah. Child sacrifice, you fail. Yeah,
exactly. So there's that, and I don't know. Like I don't have an answer to this. I'm not an academic. I'm not particularly intelligent in these matters, but it's a tough one. I just enjoy talking about it. So I can kind of understand why. And a lot of people say that it's payback to the West for what they did for hundreds of years to the Eastern countries, which is a bit of karma happening there. Maybe there is. But I don't know. I feel in Australia though, we've the pendulum's gone too far one way.
Yeah, I mean, how guilty are we for these things? Not that guilty. I mean, the founders of Australia were treated terribly. The way convicts were treated for the most minor crimes was an atrocity, I think, on par with colonialism. Doing 15 years of breaking rocks for stealing a
loaf of bread
to feed your family. I mean, that is a cruelty of unspeakable magnitude, I think, and no one ever talks about that, do they?
No.
So I don't know how much guilt we bear for this, and whether it's our responsibility to simply let these people into the country en masse for no reason. All of a sudden, after years and years of very careful, considered, very selective choosing.
And look, again, if I was born in India and I lived in India,
I'd be exactly as they are.
I'd be
Absolutely.
like,
Do not blame them for a second. Do not blame them for a second.
I don't blame them.
I blame the people who are funneling money back into the political parties to increase the floodgates even more and making a buck off these dodgy courses.
Exactly. And look, to be completely honest and open, and maybe I'm trying to be a bit nice here, but if all these Indians were coming here and they were contributing positively and they weren't doing these scam courses and they weren't just being Uber Eats drivers, I'd be like, okay. If they weren't negatively impacting the culture, I'd be like, okay.
How can they contribute positively? Because all they're doing is sitting in their cars making deliveries.
Yeah.
Probably socializing with other people in the same boat. They cannot integrate. They've not been given the chance.
No, exactly.
Other immigrant groups.
I don't know, James.
I don't
know.
They're being set up to fail and to be basically a ghettoized caste, aren't they? Not the Brahmins, whatever the opposite of the Brahmins is.
The
untouchables.
The untouchables, yeah. I really don't know. And you could even make the point that this is perhaps deliberate in order to create this lower social class in order to serve the upper classes.
Or perhaps one that votes Labor. Someone got in a lot of trouble for saying that recently, even though 6 in 10 Indian voters did vote Labor.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
Who?
Jacinta Price said perhaps the Labor Party is bringing in its new support base, and she was roundly attacked, even though...
That makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's simple mathematics, yeah.
I think that's enough about Indians there. I think we can move
on to bigger matters. The biggest matter of all.
James, you caused a bit of heat.
James Christidis.
Yeah, James Christidis.
Shout out to Jimmy K.
Yeah,
James Christidis, for everyone who is watching at home and doesn't have the background, went to high school with us, and he came roaring back into our lives for a brief shining moment last week where he started attacking this podcast for the most minor alleged crimes. I think we were talking about how much the minimum wage had gone down by, and he was saying, well, you said it was $6, but it's actually $4.
Yeah,
but he was really going hammer and tong.
Yeah, missed the point.
But the context here is, James, I'm going to say it. I'm not too nice to skim over this one. He was in high school, and one thing distinguished James Christidis from the other kids in school, and that was his enormous cranium.
He had a very large head. Fine.
I've got a huge head.
Macrocephaly, I think it's called.
That's the medical term. I've got a very big head.
You do?
I believe we measured it for health class.
Yeah.
I was the 3rd or 4th biggest in the year. James Christidis was a couple of standard deviations above me.
Wow.
So we used to call him Donkey Kong mode.
Yeah.
That's all I really remembered him as.
DK mode, and for those who don't know, that was a mode in GoldenEye on the N64 where you'd put in a code, and for some reason, I don't know why the developers put it in there, but everyone just had giant heads.
There was gigantism. Gigantism
Yeah,
mode.
and look,
And so that's basically
I have one
all-
other memory of James Christidis. He owned the most expensive cricket bat one could purchase, but he wasn't that good.
Well, he couldn't buy a helmet, Saad, you see. So you have to have the Willow has to do the heavy lifting there in terms of protecting your cranium.
He was wearing adult size helmets, but he had a I think he had a Slazenger V800 or
Did he? Yeah.
it was the most expensive cricket bat you could get at the time, and everyone was like gushing over it. And I remember,
Big head, big bat.
on his debut with the bat, he got out for a duck or one run or something like that.
He used to struggle to see the ball. It's very difficult to balance an object of that size on it. But anyway, look, James came roaring back into prominence. He was just throwing out haymakers at our podcast of the most shithouse kind. He was just making these claims that we were peddling in misinformation, which of course everyone is to some extent. We'll get a fact wrong here and there, but he was just making the most piecemeal complaints. And after about 60 comments, Saad kind of goes, "Do you think there might be a hidden agenda here?" And I just sort of thought, well, I just presumed it was the macrocephaly. I hadn't considered that there might be some ulterior motive. I chalked it up to macrocephaly. But Saad was more perceptive than me as usual, and it emerged that James and about 4 or 5 other people who made negative comments under our last podcast.
Yes, yeah.
No one else made negative comments, by the way. They're all members of the union movement.
That was shocking because I said, James, are you part of a part of the
James
part of the
Christidis,
union?
this is.
James
Yeah.
Christidis, are you a part of a union? And he didn't answer, but then later on he did.
That's after he'd been having a go at us for being not transparent and dealing in misinformation.
Exactly. And we were blaming, or James, you were blaming in that comment, in that post, in that clip, the Labor Party for basically forcing the wage of drivers from $50 an hour to $14.
Well, what we did is
whether it's 14, whether it's 20, who cares?
What we did was we told the truth, and that is that the Labor Party completely screwed over its base.
Yes.
And that angered particularly the Transport Workers Union, which represents people who drive rideshare.
Yeah.
And we pointed out that thanks to Labor, with the consent of Labor, this influx of migrants meant that the money you're making for Uber had gone from double the minimum wage to well below it because immigrants had pushed down the per hourly rate.
And then he attempted to give us
a simple, true, undeniable fact.
Exactly.
As plain as the nose on your face.
Exactly.
But this set Jimmy Christidis off. And lo and behold, it turned out at the end of all this, he was a member of the very same Transport Workers Union who were basically the ones who should have been feeling guilty about our video, which went off pretty well. I mean, we got about 10,000 views.
We got
a lot of rideshare
one.
drivers were retweeting that one and talking about how betrayed they felt by the Labor Party.
So James was a member, or is a member, of the Transport Workers Union.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. He said that he works in logistics for a major car manufacturer, which we don't manufacture cars in Australia.
I don't think James is can I just be honest? I don't think James is working too hard based on how many comments he was able to leave under our video. And then once we exposed him, he followed up with me in my DMs as well. I had to mute him, and then somehow he came roaring back in. Something to do with the macrocephaly. I guess he just headbutted his way through the mute protection of Facebook. And I had to block him just because I wasn't interested in hearing what someone who was a union stooge, but trying to hide it, had to say. Because he was taking his script, obviously, from the higher-ups at his union, and they were annoyed that our video kind of blew up and kind of told the truth that no one else was telling about how the Labor Party screwed the working class while making speeches about growing up in public housing, as the Prime Minister is so fond of doing, the old bait and switch.
Exactly. He attempted to give us a year 7 business studies lesson about, they are sole traders and ABN, this and that. Again, completely missing the fucking point.
Let's be honest, it's effectively a wage.
Yeah, exactly.
And you drove it well below the minimum wage, and you are the Labor Party who stands for the minimum wage.
Yeah.
You guys got called the fuck out in
Exactly.
being nasty, treacherous, lying dogs to your mates who you're meant to be in there fighting for, and you couldn't handle it.
And how many other comments were there from union members?
There was a total of 5. I noticed the pattern after you exposed Jimmy Christidis. I went back through and I looked at the other ones, and some of them were obvious. They had unions in their profile pictures. Others I knew, and I hadn't put the 2 and 2 together. But no, there was 5 people who left a total of, I think, 70 comments. All were union hacks. So I actually felt disappointed after you exposed it, Saad, because I sort of thought, well, we've still got a long way to go, don't we? I mean, we're only, 15, 13, 14 episodes
Something like that.
in.
Whatever, who's counting.
But so far, our only op of any significance is the Australian Council of Trade Unions. And those guys are basically totally irrelevant. That's why they're spending so much time and resources in our comment section.
I just find that just amazing.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how organic a lot of the interactions you see online are. I mean, how many are these powerful interest groups trying to tilt the tables?
Yeah, exactly. Influence the voice. You did have one comment from someone saying, if you're still thinking in terms of Labour and Liberal politics, you're well behind, and it starts going about.
No, that was a good comment.
That was a good comment.
That was a good comment. That was a good comment. He called me out. That was a good bloke.
That was a good comment. But like, I suppose he as well was like, the problem with clips is, we make a short clip of something, and if you don't have the whole context, it's hard to know.
And sometimes that's exactly why we clip them that way.
Yeah, exactly.
For example,
we want to do it.
Some of Saad's observations on Indian people taken out of context can go hugely viral.
Yes.
We have noticed this.
Yeah, exactly.
The punters love them.
Some of the clips,
which kind of makes your previous comments about One Nation a little bit ironic, don't you? Don't you think?
Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, some people might accuse me of being racist if they saw some of my clips in isolation.
Except for the fact that most people would classify you as technically the same race as the people you are railing against. Because your criticism is not race-based.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It
looks it,
not.
but it is not.
Yeah. There is, I mean, as far as I know, I think there is a bit of a freeze on Pakistanis entering Australia, or there has been for a while. It's becoming a lot harder. I know several people whose family members have been denied visas to Australia to attend weddings and things like that. Like, parents of friends, relatives and things like that. There's a big family wedding going on. They've applied for a tourist visa to Australia, and they have been denied. Because
do you know what happened? There was a big scam a few years ago towards the end of the previous Liberal government, where there was a huge influx of asylum seeker applications, tens of thousands from Malaysia and China, and they all got provisionally, okay, we'll assess your case, and they all just disappeared.
Yeah,
tens of thousands of people. And what are they doing now? They're probably working in brothels or for below minimum wage or Uber Eats or whatever. But there have been so many visa scams, all with the knowledge and cooperation of the Liberal and Labor parties, both of whom are getting a nice big slice of the action and profiting off the human misery that probably results when you go on the fucking run after getting an asylum seeker temporary protection visa and start working in wherever the hell they are working for well below minimum wage.
Yep. Let's leave it there, James. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Talk soon.